Hey, y'all, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and I'm here with Jonathan.
Hey, yo.
Today, we're going to be talking about The Boys, The Acolyte, some Emmy noms, The Russos' return. We're going to be talking about Deadpool, which is coming out pretty soon, Spider-Man Noir, a little bit of a deep dive there, and we have an interview with Simon Roy of Images, Gruss Grombus. I keep saying it wrong. All those timestamps are in the description, guys. If you guys want to move around in the episode, you can just click on the timestamp. It should link right to it. So check that out. While you're in the description, we would really appreciate some reviews over on Spotify, Apple, Podchaser, all alike. Those really help the show grow, and it's completely free to do. So go ahead and do that. We really appreciate that. Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Fantastic. I was, I think we probably talked about this last week too. I was sick for a while, but now I'm feeling great again. How are you doing?
I am doing good. We mentioned it last time, but now you don't sound sick. Last time you still sounded sick.
Still sounded,
Let's get into our question. By the way, guys, we're going to start compiling all our questions on our Discord. There's going to be a new channel for it where you guys can add your input or just check out old questions or whatever. This one is going to be, what's the one fictional universe you'd love to live in for 1 year and why? Jonathan, fire away.
Yeah, there's so many different ones, but being a Trekkie, I think it's just the regular Star Trek universe. And it'd be cool to explore all these different planets and stuff, but I think I'd want to work in Starfleet, on Earth. Mm-hmm. It seems like it'd be, I don't know, there'd be so much cool different stuff to see and learn. But yeah,
that's a good one. I personally, I'd want to go for the Lord of the Rings. I would love to live in the Shire for 1 year. Think of how relaxing of a retreat that would be to just drinking tea or whatever, smoking the pipes and reading some books for a full year out in the Shire. Oh my God, yes.
But I mean, there's such a unequal powers, I guess, in Lord of the Rings world. So it just takes one orc to come through and the Shire could be destroyed because they're so big and they're so small.
But they're so useless. Most people don't even care about them, so they get ignored for the most part.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like the rabbits that are running around by your feet while you're hunting the big elk or something.
Yeah. So I think it would be wonderful. Cool. I would wish my house was more Shire-like. I wish I had lived in Bilbo's setup.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think. Go ahead.
I've seen people who've done that, make that big door entryway for their house. It's I can't imagine how many thousands of dollars you're spending for one cool, I don't know, prop, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, it looks really accurate too.
There's an artist that I follow on TikTok and I don't remember his name. I'm sorry about that. But his artist alcove is all Shire hobbits and themed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's I could just spend days in there, with a roaring fire going. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get into the news. First off, let's talk about the Russo brothers. So they're reportedly in talks to return for the MCU to make the next two Avengers movies. Yeah. So for those of you who are hey, who are the Russo brothers? They sound kind of familiar. They made the last two Avengers movies, Endgame, Infinity War. They also did Winter Soldier and a few others. I'm really excited that they're back. What are your thoughts on the Russo brothers coming back?
Well, because I think we can all agree that Endgame was the peak of MCU, where there was so much excitement built behind it. They did a good job building up these characters to just this big final battle royale kind of thing. So to be able to, even if they don't recreate that hype, putting these guys' names behind it is going to help stir it up and get people excited for what they're working on. But hopefully they can attempt to recreate it to some extent. I know it's never going to be the same. You can't, ring that bell the same twice, but it's going to be, another version, hopefully, that's just as exciting.
I like how you try to use the ring the bell.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
I messed that up.
I don't know. Yeah. It's you can't replicate it exactly the same, but but you can't unring a bell. That's not the same thing.
That's not the right one.
Yeah.
These guys could put on an event, right? So Endgame, Infinity War, they're back to back. It felt like an event, an end to 10 years. And so I'm hoping that that's what they could capture again. Will not be easy. The MCU is not what it was beforehand. Yeah. Because it's not pioneering new roads anymore like it was before. But the idea that they could throw this event again and kind of build that hype, I'm so for it. And I really like the name. Now, I will say, I have a ton of comments on TikTok and Instagram and of when I put out the video explaining this, people being you think this is good news? That's crazy. These guys are they don't make anything creative or whatever. And it's I hate to be in Kevin Feige's shoes because you can never make fans happy.
Yeah. Right. I mean, look at the money that Disney made. If you just want to follow the money, those were very effective projects, and Disney's not dumb. They know how to print cash, so they take some wide swings every once in a while, but for the most part, they keep that train plowing down the rails because they keep sticking with good team members like this.
Absolutely, yeah. The whole it's a fun joke if you guys ever look at the actual charts, the whole like go woke, go broke, like, oh, ever since Disney bought, Star Wars and Marvel, it's gone downhill. Not according to the box office, guys. If you actually look at how much money they're making, it's all up. So the idea that people hate what Marvel's doing one way or another, it's like you guys still keep buying tickets. So that's how you tell them what you want. If you don't like it, stop going to watch everything. You guys
And these are the same people that wouldn't have read those comic books 30 years ago anyways.
Oh my God, right?
Like you don't like the content, that's fine. Go watch a baseball game or whatever you're interested in. You're just not a geek or, not a comic book movie fan. That's fine.
Right. Amazing how much that's the case. They have no clue what the source material is or even will give it a chance. They just want to complain. It's irritating. But yeah, so I think the Russo Brothers is exactly what we need right now for Marvel. We already talked about them many times, how Marvel's kind of going this new direction. And this week we have San Diego Comic-Con, which I'll be watching live and sending out as much information as possible as we're watching it. I'll try to be in Discord for that too if you guys want to chit chat while we're watching some big announcements. Thomas is going to be down there. He's actually going to be in Hall H. So he's going to be in the room where it happened. Yeah. That'll be really cool. What kind of big announcements are you wanting out of Marvel this year? I'll start with what I want the most. I want to see the cast of the Fantastic Four walk out on stage and talk about, what the vibe for Fantastic Four will be, which we've heard that it'll be inspired by Star Trek. Of course, you and I are big fans of that. Yeah. I think that would be a really cool kind of nod to the future of the MCU. What's something you're excited for?
Well, and I know we're expecting this kind of multiverse collapse coming at some point where it's a big reset and it kind of puts everybody on one line and it can merge, some characters from different universes. So a little bit, I know that they're not going to divulge too much about that because it's going to be a good surprise. But a little bit of an outline of what the future is going to look like in that respect would be kind of nice. I don't know. Again, they can't tell you too much because they don't want to spoil it. It's going to be a big shock, but just an idea of the future, I guess, how it's going to work out. And I know we've said it many times. I guess I go back and forth saying, stick to what you know and what's really good. Use the same amazing characters like Iron Man, which we're probably going to see resurrected. But then I also continue to say, make new characters. It doesn't even have to have a comic book, but just, the person who made comic books 50 years ago, get people like that to make creative, new, fun characters and test them out. And if they work good, great. If not, throw it away and try again. Well, it's both. You want to continue to see Iron Man on the screen, but you also want to see, I want to see some super creative, out of the box, new characters that, we haven't met before. But continue to make for our generation too. As much as I like a lot of the new stuff, I'm worried they're going to be writing more and more for the next generation, the younger kids. So it's going to be, high school dramas and stuff like that. But I don't want to see that. I want to continue to see Iron Man 1, on the big screen. So
they made high school dramas back in the day too. They were just in high school when that happened.
Exactly. But follow with my age. I mean, I'm the one that matters, right? Not the next generation.
Well, you know what, Jonathan? It's funny that you say that. This is kind of a off track a little bit, but you are the one that matters because there was a study that came out this week saying that majority of toy sales are with 30-year-old men. It's not with kids. Kids are not the primary target of toys anymore. How crazy is that?
I mean, look behind you.
I know.
You have all those pops. I got above me a shelf full of action figures and stuff like that. And it's like, but my son, I got him one Green Lantern. I should have bought two. I was so mad at myself because they had at Walmart, they were clearance for $1. I was like, how can I not buy Green Lanterns for $1? And they actually had 3 of them there. One box was damaged. And so I just bought one. And then after we walked away, I was like, damn it! I should have got one for my son. So we got home. I had to open it and give it to him, but it was, it was the John Stewart. There you go. From the Justice League that we used to watch and everything. So it's like, too. Yeah, and he has a little lantern he can hold, which he lost right away, of course, but still, it was cool. I just should have bought 2 of them.
The only thing I got out of Prime Day, Jonathan, was a Batman action figure that from Dark Knights of Steel. So it's Batman with like the full set of
metal
armor and stuff, and the torn up cloak. It's all I bought from Prime Day, and that was a toy I bought for myself. So yeah. Going back to Marvel, I do think that they are trying to aim at our generation a lot with some of the grittier stuff that's coming out and some of the darker tones.
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine. Definitely not for the younger generations.
Yeah, so, like we talked about Agatha too. I'm hoping that's them testing the waters of a kind of a darker, edgier side, and that if that goes well, they can continue that and make a whole nother world that is that.
Yeah, like a magical but kind of dark magical world. You're trying to say?
Yeah. That'd be cool.
Speaking of Deadpool and Wolverine. During San Diego Comic-Con, which is crazy the timing worked out for this, Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be coming out in theaters. I'm going to try to watch it as soon as possible. So just a heads up, Challenge Accepted will have a review for that as soon as possible. But the thing is Thomas, my co-host on that series, will be at Comic-Con. So we'll figure out how it is. Maybe Jonathan, if you want to, or whomever, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Or I might just be talking into a mic by myself. I'm fine with that too. What are your thoughts on this movie coming up? Are you hyped for it? I know you're not necessarily the biggest Deadpool fan.
Yeah, I'm not a big Deadpool fan, but I know this is going to be a big step in the MCU, so I'm excited for that. And we talked about it the other day. I don't think I actually saw the Wolverine movie that came out in 2017 or something like that.
So, Jonathan, it's called Logan, and that's absurd that you haven't seen it. That's so crazy. So,
no, I put it on. I started watching it the other day. Okay. I couldn't finish it. I only saw like the first half of it, but it was really good. I'm like, how the hell did I not see this back then? So I need to, but I got to stop watching things in pieces like that. I need to find time to sit and just watch it all the way through because it totally changes the story. But yeah, I want to finish that. I've seen Deadpool, but I'll probably rewatch Deadpool 2 anyways. To be ready for this to come out, but I think it's still either way going to be something I see in theaters because so much hype behind it.
Like I've mentioned before, now you live 2 miles down the road from me. So if you ever want to escape for a little while and watch some Deadpool, I'll always put it back on. I'm definitely down with that. Or some Logan. My God, it's so good. Actually, I will watch Logan before the next one. Some of the things I'm excited for. Let's talk about what we know so far for the movie. This week it was revealed that Daphne Keene, X-23, which is in the Logan movie, the little girl, is in this movie now. She's in this movie as an adult, obviously, at this point. But you've been watching her in the Acolyte. You just been watching Acolyte. She's in that one as well. We have Lady Deadpool and Cowboy Deadpool both confirmed, and so many more Deadpools, even Dogpool. Lady Deadpool, we're still trying to figure out who she's going to be played by. We're going to find out soon, of course. Blake Lively, Taylor Swift, something like that. Cowboy Deadpool is saying that it's going to be Matthew McConaughey's playing him.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah. I like how it even has like he even has like a 6-shooter and everything like that instead of like the regular guns. That's going to be so dope. Yeah. We have so many returning characters from the Foxverse, the Sonyverse, all those things like that, including, the old Colossus. We have Jennifer Garner's Elektra coming back. She's leading a group of rebels against Cassandra Nova. All kinds of cool things. So, Lady Deathstrike even. God, that's an old school one. This is going to be a goodbye to those old era of movies, which, the old Daredevil movie was okay. I think it had a really good with the Ben Affleck,
Yeah.
But we have those old X-Men movies and stuff like that. I think this is going to be a really good way to say goodbye to those. What was one of your favorite of those old movies?
X-Men 2 for sure. That was one of my favorites. The Magneto, his break out of prison. I mean, it was just a masterpiece. Yeah. Oh, so cool.
Yeah. That it was so simple. Like it was like he was so he's like not putting a lot of effort into that breakout. It was so cool.
Yeah. Amazing. It just his acting and how his character gets out of that, it makes it clear how powerful he is, he's so much more powerful than what we're seeing, that this is just easy for him. He's just strolling out of the front door pretty much.
Yeah.
He just needed that one little tool. He just needed the guy to have a little bit more iron in his blood, and then he could just extract it out. I was like, damn, that's so cool.
Shout out to Mystique, who did not tell Magneto that plan, but just kept sneaking in more iron into that guy's diet. Like, it was such a good movie. I would say X2 is probably the best of that era, for sure.
Yeah.
Rumored, but we have not have any confirmation, Storm Halle Berry to be in this movie. Cyclops and Jean Grey from that era as well. Some of the more outlandish rumors is Channing Tatum as Gambit, because they tried to make the Channing Tatum Gambit movie so many times, but it just couldn't happen. So they're kind of like, hey, let's toss him in this as like he was supposed to be there kind of thing. And heavily rumored is Daniel Radcliffe playing a variation on Wolverine, playing one of his variants, because people were fan casting him for a long time, and like he's not going to do it, I guess. But because they're fan casting him so hard, it's the same thing they did with Jim from The Office, John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, because they kept fan casting it. So everybody's saying like they'll probably just have Daniel Radcliffe in there and be like, yeah, here he is. He's one of the Wolverines. You know,
just seems like an odd. I mean, I keep thinking of him as a teenager though, so I'm like, so he's going to be teenager Wolverine? Oh yeah, no, he's a grown adult too by now. But
a grown ass man.
Yeah, but I don't know. That seems like such a weird casting.
Yeah, it works well when you actually see him with like a beard. He has like a beard in a few of his like Broadway stuff. Okay. So again, guys, we're going to try to cover this as soon as possible over on Challenge Accepted. Come hang out with us over there. We'll see about getting something out for Geek Freaks as well. If push come to shove, we'll definitely going to review it on the next Geek Freaks for sure. Let's stick in the world of Marvel, John. Let's talk about Spider-Man Noir. What do you know about that character?
Not much. I know we talked about on here before. He's like a beat cop detective kind of, very grounded. But he's also, Spider-Man to some extent, but I don't think he, swings with webs and wears the suit and stuff like that, right?
He does actually, but he wears a all black suit. So we have the Amazon Prime series coming up, and I wanted to kind of break down who this character is and how he differs from regular Spider-Man. He's part of a Marvel's Noir universe they tried, where there was not just Spider-Man, but everybody. Spider-Man's the only one that successfully was pulled out of it, and that's mostly because of the Spider-Verse stuff, where his interactions with our Peter Parker and Miles Morales laid in. So let's talk about the Amazon Prime and what we know so far. First off, Nicolas Cage is going to be playing Spider-Man Noir. He voiced him in the Spider-Verse movies. Now he's going to play in the live action. Lamorne Morris is going to be playing Robbie Robertson, and we have Brandon Gleeson who's going to be playing the villain, likely a mob boss. Which is so good for him. You remember him from Gangs in New York? He's the barber that like notches his. Oh, one of my favorite roles of his. God. They're starting production next month, so we're gonna start getting some more information trickling out. So that's why we're talking about them now. They're gonna be filming through February 2025, down in LA. So we're gonna get some more footage from the scene. This is gonna be produced by MGM, which is now owned by Amazon Prime. And the idea is it's going to be set in the 30s. It's going to be gritty, authentic New York. It should be very dark, the tones and everything like that, almost black and white, frankly. And he's going to be using detective skills more than spider skills. So I think that's where they're going to keep the budget low. Feels kind of like a Batman movie, huh?
Yeah, I've been thinking like, hopefully it doesn't really take this kind of creative, artistic leap, I guess it would be. Sin City, you remember that? It was a movie with a bunch of
Zack Snyder, I think, directed that. Yeah. So it sounds a lot like that. It reminds me a lot of that, but I'm kind of hoping it's not quite that artistic, because that's a little off the beaten path. But it's a good movie. Or I think it was. Was it 2 movies? No, it was. There is 2 movies, I think, but the sequel was not like popular at all. But the first movie. I mean, Elijah Wood, it was like one of Elijah Wood's first movies after Lord of the Rings, and he plays a murderer cannibal in that movie. So it's like, what the hell? You're Frodo. His origin story is very similar with, an Uncle Ben that passes away and stuff. The key is that he's bitten by a mystical spider from a totem. So there's like this, instead of science, because against the 30s, there's kind of like... there's a lot of like Indiana Jones in it, right? Like, we're at the like forefront of the Industrial Revolution, but there's like untapped jungles out there. So if you bring something back, you can actually bring magic back to this world. And that's what it is. It's a totem. Okay. His main enemy is Norman Osborn, again, the Green Goblin. But Norman Osborn is a ruthless crime boss that controls the criminal underground of New York City. And at this point, Spider-Man is kind of a private eye. He's a little bit retired. He puts on the black suit and stuff like that as a symbol. He's trying to be a symbol for his city, for the guys who are underrepresented, and like trying to show them like, hey, I'm here for you guys while everybody else is forgetting about you. So he has all the same abilities, but he also has enhanced vision, due to the mystical spider bite, it grants him a night vision. So along everything else, he also has night vision, which is really good for this particular world.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, that's kind of the rundown of Spider-Man Noir as it is. I wrote a full breakdown of the character on our website if you guys want to check that out. But I think he's going to be a pretty interesting character to explore.
Yeah, that sounds so good. And like you're saying, it's got a lot of these Batman vibes. And I wish they were in the same, company or same, universe so that we can cross these over, because it seems like he would play so well as like a Batman sidekick or counterpart or team up,
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. But, so, as filming happens, we'll get more information on it, of course. But you're right. Yeah, it kind of gives this Batman. It almost gives like 90s Batman, like the Batman animated series feeling to it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. If you're ready, we can talk about the Emmys. We got a lot of good shows being nominated. I don't know if you've watched Shogun. Have you been watching that?
Dude, it's so good. Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, it's one of the best of the season of the year.
So Shogun, The Bear, and Abbott Elementary all leading the pack right now. I know I tried watching Shogun, but it's so much subtitle reading, and especially if I'm watching it on my phone, that's a lot harder to do. It's kind of thing you got to be really engaged with the TV.
Note to that, Jonathan, real quick, so that you give it a second shot. If you go to like episodes in Hulu and you go over to bonus features, it's the same episodes but with English over them.
Oh, they're dubbed. Okay,
dubbed. Yep.
That would be a lot easier.
Especially I'm a slow reader. How would you even watch captions on a phone? My God, that'd be crazy.
Yeah. And it was just a slow reader in general. So I'm like, the screen changed. Wait, I got to pause it. What are you guys saying? You guys are talking too fast.
I didn't sign up for a book.
Right. Even books, I get an audio book. Come on now. But yeah, the Bear has been doing really good. I got to watch that again. I watched a little bit of season 1. It didn't continue, but I didn't think it was going to blow up like it has. And then Abbott Elementary, though, I think that was one of my favorite of the like newer sitcoms. I think it was Abbott Elementary.
I love that show so much.
Glad to see it's nominated.
Yeah, that's probably my top. I like just regular sitcoms nowadays. I think Abbott Elementary is my number one. It feels like The Office in a way, right? Yeah,
and Kim Convenience. It reminds me of that same kind of energy from that. Such a good show. I wish they continued that.
Yeah. A couple other big things that are getting noms is that Netflix's Baby Reindeer. Did you watch that at all?
I did not, but yeah, I've heard people talking about that like crazy lately too.
It's kind of hard to watch, if I'm being honest. I've only watched a few episodes of it because I was like, this is getting me nauseous.
Yeah.
Because it's about a stalker stalking this one dude. And then Miguel, who's been recommending it like crazy, told me the ending because I was like, I don't want to watch the rest of that, man. Come to find out, like the guy goes crazy himself and then like starts stalking other people, and it was just like too real. Like the way this poor lady is just sitting out there at the bus stop watching him every day. I was like, oh, poor thing. I felt so bad for her, but she's a lunatic, and it's based off of a real story, which is nuts.
Yeah, that's creepy too. There's especially shows like that my wife can't watch because it just gets in her head and she'll have nightmares about it and stuff. And she'll think somebody's sitting somewhere just watching her when she's shopping or something like that.
Yeah. Outstanding reality series. So we have Amazing Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, Top Chef, The Traitors, and The Voice. Understandably that Survivor wasn't on there. I know it wasn't the best season for them. Yeah. But Amazing Race, I'm happy is still on there, man. Amazing Race, so good this season. Fantastic. That's definitely my choice.
Yeah.
We talked about over on Outlast Podcast, like how do we incorporate Amazing Race in this, and how do you cover that? You can't. Like it's so everywhere that it would be impossible to cover.
Yeah, I watched some of the Traitors, and it seemed like they had good members, good good competitors, I guess, or whatever. Yeah. But just the general premise of the show and stuff couldn't keep me hooked for very long. So I only watched like three or four episodes, I think.
Yeah, I need to give it a shot because they have so many Survivor members on there that's kind of the reason I want to give it a shot. But it's tough, Yeah.
The way the host speaks, it's very grandiose and stuff, and it's just kind of, to me, that pulls me out of it.
It slows it down too much when they do that.
Yeah. A lot of
outstanding drama series and 16 nominations as a whole. Fallout. That's a video game adaptation, man. They got all kinds of noms.
Yes, I want to see that more and more. There's so many good stories in video games that can be retold on the big screen for the general population. Like, hopefully, this puts a fire into that industry and makes it happen. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it is amazing. And then I want to go over to outstanding comedy series noms. Of course, we have Abbott Elementary. The Bear is on that list. Do you think The Bear is a comedy at all?
I really don't. I didn't think so. I thought it was more of like a drama, but if they're putting it in a comedy. From what I've seen of it, there wasn't anything really funny going on, but
no comedy gives me that much anxiety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all stress.
So it's kind of unfair because, so it's in Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I think should win just because it's its final season. Hacks, widely beloved. Only Murders in the Building, so good. Palm Royale, I haven't watched. But Reservation Dogs is similar to The Bear in that it is very drama forward, but it is clearly a comedy when you're watching it. And then What We Do in the Shadows, I've rewatched, no lie, maybe 30 times.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, but it's one of those shows I put on. It's in my rotation of just shows I have playing in the background sometimes. Yeah. What a list. But I feel like because they put The Bear in the comedy section, it's going to take it just because it's a really good drama. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that doesn't seem fair. Is it not nominated in any other category?
It's a nominated. Yeah, it's one of the top nominated things. But the fact that it's in the comedy section instead of the drama section, which Fallout seemed like it was a lot funnier, which it got nominated for one of the best dramas. So it's like those two should have been swapped if you're going to do anything because Fallout definitely had a comedy band.
Yeah, but Fallout had like people getting limbs shot off and things like that. So yeah, that's just a weird,
funny way.
Yeah, I don't know how they classify them, but hopefully, I guess either way, as long as they both win in one of the categories, I guess the title of the category isn't as significant. But
it hurts Fallout. The chances of those who actually embrace the comedy of it. I think when they bring in The Bear.
Yeah,
there's a couple moments where I chuckle, but it's not like it's something that I'm crazy for.
Yeah. And that's I notice that more and more that we will text and say laugh out loud or whatever, but when a show is actually making you laugh, especially if I'm watching it on my phone on my lunch break and I'm laughing in the break room and then I have to look around like, oh shit, is somebody watching me laugh like an idiot real loud? But then it's like, oh yeah, that's how you know it's a good show or a good comedy anyways, is that you're actually chuckling audibly and not just like quietly to yourself.
In that case, I mean, you're just now starting it. I just finished season 2, but I think the funniest thing I've watched this year actually make me laugh is Fantasy High from Dropout from Dimension 20.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've found myself just stop and laugh. Like I have to pause it because I gotta process what they're just saying. But then another one that you suggested from YouTube that I think was the first one I noticed is actually making me laugh out loud, and it changed my standards of what I watch is I started talking Taskmaster. There you go. I started the sentence. I didn't remember the name of the show. Taskmaster. Just the skits and it's not skits, but the challenges they would have to do and stuff like that. And the characters, the way they interact, they just make it so hilarious. It would just be like, I'm laughing like an idiot in the break room. And it's a little bit embarrassing, but it's like, man, if I'm watching something that's supposed to be funny and it's not making me laugh this hard, I need to just open up YouTube and watch this because this is so good. Taskmaster has actually won BAFTAs, which is their Emmys. So it's actually won the appropriate awards, right? Yeah, that's awesome.
But I feel like, and by the way, guys, if you're a Taskmaster fan like myself, they're currently airing season 3 of the New Zealand season. It's great so far, so check that out. If you look at Fantasy High or everything else from Dropout. So Dropout's leading show is Game Changers. You guys have probably heard about it from TikTok, but it's the leading show on the Dropout streaming service / YouTube, and they also have Fantasy High and whatnot. But it was actually in the runs for an Emmy nom, which is so crazy. There's a whole complicated story behind that that maybe someday I'll dive deep into. It didn't get it, but it was like the first time I can remember where a YouTube series and basically inventing a streaming service for it was up for an Emmy, up for Emmy nominations. It shows the effort behind them. And then when they don't get it, and I'm like, that shit is so much funnier than everything else in the comedy section. Yeah. How legitimate is the Emmys then,
Yeah, that really makes you question, is this a fair challenge? Is this a fair competition? Or is this kind of, leaning certain directions based on, people higher up, I guess?
Yeah. Yeah. And then if you're talking about best dramas, I mean, I know that it got into the animated series, but I would say one of the best dramas of this year has been X-Men 97. We've had deaths and rebirths and things like that that truly emotionally impacted me, and yet it gets relegated to the animation section, which definitely it should be nominated there as well, but I think it supersedes that as one of the best dramas of the year too.
Yeah.
But because it's a cartoon and cartoons are for kids, which is insane, it doesn't get its day in the sun, and that's just shows the weakness of the Emmy sometimes.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, guys, let us know what you guys think about the Emmys and who you're wanting to win. I know there's a lot of big fans out there, especially for the Dropout one. There's like this whole campaign and people were really pushing for it because just 4 years ago, you remember a YouTube channel called College Humor?
Yeah.
College Humor basically was owned by a big corporation and they went under in early 2020. Sam Reich, one of the top dogs over there, was like, I love these writers. I love this team. I'm going to just take it, spend my real money on it, and try to start something new with it. So he created Dropout, which is College Humor. College to Dropout is now his thing. And they started leaning in on the game show ideas and different kind of live stuff. And now it's thriving to the point 4 years later. It is its own streaming service. It's super successful. They endorse sharing passwords. That's what I was telling you. He's like, oh, I'll give you my passwords for Dropout. They want you to do that. They're not like Netflix in that way. And so cool. They're up for 2 Emmys. They almost got 2 Emmys out of this one and Very Important People. And it's like, man, what a story. Someday I'd like to dive into that story and tell it. It's so freaking fascinating.
That's so cool.
Let's get into our reviews, Jonathan. You want to start us off with what did you think about Star Wars: The Acolyte?
Yeah, so I was really excited to see more Star Wars content. I love Star Wars and this world they've built, this galaxy they've built. Watched all the movies. I have a terrible memory, so I can't recall specifics. Obviously, we do that all the time. Oh yeah, do you remember that? Oh shit, I don't remember what happened in that. When I rewatched it, though, I was like, oh yeah, I remember. I've seen all this. But I was super excited for it, and then really kind of let down in watching the show. There was a lot of it that was just kind of slow. I was waiting for this kind of build up to really get off and going, as if they're setting up characters and kind of broadening out the world, and then we're going to see traction. But it was just slow the whole time. I didn't really feel super invested in the characters. The writing felt a little bit clunky, it wasn't a very smooth story. Some stuff was kind of, you can see what's going to happen ahead of time and predictable, I guess. So yeah, overall, it's just not my favorite.
I would agree. I had high hopes for it. The trailers look so cool, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the cool characters they advertised in the trailer. That's all we got of them. So that was unfortunate. Like Vernestra uses the lightsaber whip, and I was like, yeah, so cool. Literally, the footage in the trailer is all what was in the show. So that's one of the things I think really weakens this series, and it has its high moments. I'm not going to say we're going to go full con on this, guys. Don't worry. And I have we've in Discord, people have been giving their opinions, and we're going to share those as well because they run the gambit. But one of the problems I think is they kept trying to set up mysteries and then would either not pay them off or would pay them off so obviously that you thought like it can't be that because that would be too easy. Yeah. And did you have that feeling when you were watching it?
Yeah, it's like creating a problem to solve it, but you didn't need to create the problem in the first place, kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, it was just a little. I think it's just in the writing, right? Like they just didn't take the time or didn't put the money behind the writers that I think I don't know who wrote it compared to the other Star Wars shows and movies we've seen, but bring in the writers from The Mandalorian or something else that's been successful.
Dave Filoni structures an entire universe that makes sense together, and this one doesn't feel like it makes sense with the rest of Star Wars.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. This feels like it should have been a part of Rebel Moon. Peel it off and put it with that group of things that Disney didn't buy. Snyder. Yeah, you need something that feels more Star Warsy. There you go. Pull this. And then the some of the cool things though is that lightsaber battles. I think that they did a really nice job. By the way, the actor who plays Khmer, there's interviews all over the world where he's like, I didn't even get to train with the lightsaber guys because he's trying to do his whole mystery thing of like, I'm just the guy that's helping out May. I'm not actually the stranger. No, matter of fact, you have the coolest lightsaber fights. You were definitely training. All that footage is now leaking or releasing. I think it was really cool, and I really liked the helmet that's able to short out the lightsabers, and the idea that he was ruthless. There was a ruthlessness to his lightsaber fighting where you felt like he was out to kill. When
I love the prequels, but the prequels felt so much more like they were dancing. Like the idea was to not actually hurt the other guy, just to kind of like beat them.
Just wear them out. Yeah.
Yeah. Kamir was like, I'm going to kill you, then kill the guy behind you because I got stuff to do. It felt cool that way.
Yeah, that's true. I think he was the best character for sure in this series. Yeah,
I wanted to like Soul more and I wanted to like Vernestra more. Unfortunately, because of so I'm very open to the idea of like good can be subjective, and we talked about this a lot on the other show. And Thomas is not necessarily a big fan of that. He likes for Jedi to just be good, and so when there's a question of like, well, if you have to omit the truth for the sake of good, it's still good. It's just that unfortunately I had to omit the truth. And I think that that's fine. But then at the end, when we have Vernestra literally lying and putting all the blame on Soul, almost for the sake of protecting herself and her version of the Jedi Temple, I think hurts not only her character, but the Jedi as a franchise, as franchise wide. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree, because it diminishes that integrity of the Jedis that they uphold so high, and now it's just like, well, you know, if I need to lie to, it's like either side can do whatever they want. It used to be the Sith have no rules and can do whatever, but the Jedis have to follow the strict moral code. And now it's like, well, no, if they need to, you know, kill a bunch of Sith to balance it out and make the Jedis win, then we'll do it. Which we actually see in the movies too, that a lot of them don't understand how the balance works and think that we need to kill Sith and make the Jedi strong and there will be peace. But peace and balance are different. So yeah, I think that was kind of took away from the Jedis that have been established already in all the previous movies and stuff. But I do like the idea we talked about before with the gray Jedis, where they're kind of an in-between, or even like Han Solo's character, where, you know, I'll stick around and I'll do something good as long as it pays well, pretty much. I love that kind of character because it's very human, and you can kind of walk that line with them of like, is he going to risk sacrificing his own life to potentially save, you know, these innocent people? And usually we assume he won't early in the movie, but by the end, the character's grown enough to where it's like, yeah, he's gonna, you know, put his life on the line. But you know, that's kind of the fun walk. And likewise, we see a Jedi can be corrupted. You know, just because they're good doesn't mean they're always good. But when they corrupt, they need to move to the other side of the line. Not, I'm going to be a good person doing bad things. That, you know, kind of like you're saying, diminishes the value or the character of the Jedis as a whole.
Yeah. It recently came out through other interviews that George Lucas has said that basically everybody's getting it wrong on the balance of the Force. And I am one of them, by his standards. And I'm not saying George Lucas is the end-all be-all in Star Wars anymore. He hasn't been since the 70s, in my opinion. But he says that the balance of the Force isn't between Sith and Jedi. It's between Jedi and Jedi. The balance is the Jedis. The Jedi. I keep saying Jedis with an S at the end. It's just Jedi. And the Sith represent an imbalance, pulling it away from balance. What are your thoughts on that, and how does that apply to the Acolyte?
Yeah, so I think that doesn't sound right at all. I think that they've been building this idea for so many movies and years. Even in the prequels, I think we got a better understanding of it, was that there has to be, if there's going to be a, you know, I don't know, a Yoda that's so powerful for the good, who is on the light side and trying to help the innocent and stuff like that, then there has to be a Darth Vader on the other side who's, you know, pure evil and working for the dark side. And you can't, if you kill all the Sith, then there's going to be, you also have to kill all the Jedis. If you kill all the dark side users, you have to kill all the light side users, because otherwise there will be born a super powerful or 1,000, you know, weak dark side users. So, you know, a bunch of Sith. So yeah, as far as I understood from the movies, you can't just kill your enemy. You need to find a way to coexist, you know, with some level of peace between the two sides. It's always going to be a tug of war.
So through George's words, he says basically what he's kind of imagining here is that there's the yin and yang, right? But that yin and yang are on the Jedi side.
So they're both good.
They're both good, right? So I'm trying to imagine what that would look like. And the best thing I could kind of just pull on this is the fact that Luke Skywalker himself, which if you're going to use source material, that'd be the guy, has had times where he's done things that were somewhat dark, and he did them for the intention of being good. And nobody likes to talk about the sequel series, but there's a time where he attacked Kylo Ren while Kylo was sleeping. He tried to kill him. The intention behind that is he saw that Kylo was slipping to the dark side. So if we were to apply our Jedi are always good no matter what, he probably wouldn't attack Kylo. But if we do pull the balance side, it would make sense that he has to make a dark decision for the sake of keeping things level. It's a more complicated version that I think is more complicated than red lightsaber mean bad guy, blue lightsaber mean good guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess that is very complicated, but I could to put it in like non-Star Wars terms, I'm thinking like a police department. I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine too. You think like a police department where there's some corrupt cops and there's the good cops who are trying to uphold the law and stuff like that, and so there's kind of a back and forth between them where they're trying to get each other caught for committing crimes or whatever, trying to get each other arrested, and some of them get shot by gangsters, things like that, whatever. A balance between the good cops and the bad cops within the precinct, but then outside of the precinct, there is the criminals also that are trying to, take out the cops in general. So it'd be like the Jedi are good guys as a whole, but some of them do, questionable things from time to time. And so it's a balance inside within their department, within the Jedi Order. But then outside of that is this imbalance that's trying to influence, that's trying to disrupt them. But then them having the same kind of power too, the Sith having the Force and being the same size. I don't know. It's really complicated.
So to add to that real quick, he's mentioned that. So like the lightning force or the Force choke, those are both Sith only moves. And he says that the Jedi can do those too, but the restraint in seeing that those are too deadly, that you have to restrain yourself and see that like that's not what's good for life, that's Jedi. And I'm like, okay, I like that a lot, because the idea that the Jedi can do Force lightning, sure, if they wanted to just unleash and be reckless with this ability, that makes sense. And the idea that they're like, no, that's not what's ideal, just like how they fight with lightsabers and they don't actually go for the stabs. I like that idea of the Jedi. And then going back to your Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the police department idea, which it's, I like to think it's not so much that they're fighting with corrupt cops, which is definitely a thing. But it's kind of like you have like internal affairs and detectives. Like you have so many different aspects of the cops. Some that are worried about, hey, we have to pull over this many people, and other people that are like, hey, I'm just helping with the crossing guard duties today. All these complicated things that some feel like are more aggressive and anti, people or whatever, and others that are very down to earth. Then that makes sense to me how the Jedi would be a yin and yang versus say a Sith that's just like, I'm going to be selfish and uncontrolled. Yeah.
That just makes it so complicated.
It does. More complicated than I thought George Lucas had in him.
Yeah. There's good guys and bad guys in a balance that we want to stay somewhere in the middle all the time, and that makes it easier because you see Darth Vader coming, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. It's the cowboy with the black hat, right?
Yeah. So let's reflect that back to the Acolyte, where we have them having to lie to the people, to the Senate, to be able to kind of what feels like cover their ass. Does that make more sense? And my problem is, even if it did make more sense, they didn't explain it well enough for us to care.
Yeah, well, because they didn't lay out any of what we're talking about with how the Force supposedly is supposed to work, as far as, and this is so many years before a lot of the other movies and shows. Yeah, but I mean, just from watching the movies, I get the general sense that it's supposed to be a yin and yang between good and evil, not within the good side. So yeah, if they're gonna exploit that or expand on that, they need to explain it, I think. Yeah. If they're gonna be utilizing that perspective in the show.
Yeah, I think if this gets a second season, which I highly doubt, just because the critical response has not been great, but its streaming numbers have been, so there's that. But I think if they wanted to further explain that, then I want to see May and Osha represent two people on the same side, not two people on opposite sides. Because at the end, we had May and Osha essentially flip sides from what we know. And that just feels repetitive and drawn out and exhausting. We've seen that kind of thing before. But if we have them both trying to be generally good or generally bad, whatever. But two on the same side, that seems more worthy of, or well thought out.
Yeah.
And a lot of the series did not feel well thought out at all.
Yeah, because like what it's essentially saying is like we're both almost the same person. We're twins, and one of us can be good while the other one can be bad, and it's okay. But what you're saying is like, well, can't we both be good and bad and work together still? Like, should we not prove that both sides can come together and still work together whether we have different views or not? Right?
Yeah, yeah. It would be interesting to see if they could pull that off. And then at the end of the series, we have two characters that did cameos that kind of lead to season 2. First off, we have Darth Plagueis. For those who are unfamiliar, you remember Palpatine explaining to Anakin about Darth Plagueis the Wise and how he's able to bring people back from the dead. So we have Plagueis in this series as a little cameo. He's coming up. He's basically who was teaching Khmer. And then we have Yoda. Yoda popped up at the very end too, as finally Vernestra's going to like, hey, I have to bring in the big dogs for this. I'm over my head on this. After lying to the Senate, by the way, she goes to Yoda for advice. So it's very scary because it's like, hold on, are you about to tell Yoda what you just did, lying? Are you going to implicate him in the lies? Are you going to make Yoda a liar? And you don't mess with Superman. If you want to mess with some random DC character, Zatanna, whomever, fine. You don't mess with Superman.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about it before with Grogu being introduced in The Mandalorian. I really want some more backstory to Yoda's. I know that it hasn't even been written, but backstory, maybe fan fictions have developed it. But yeah, backstory to Yoda and his people, where he came from and how they function and why they're so scarce and live so long and things like that. We don't know almost anything, but I mean, spend a lot of time writing it and reviewing it and planning it, because it would be a big deal. Like you're saying, you can't mess up Yoda. He's such a, critical character.
I think I want more Yoda, but I don't want them to explain the backstory. I like the mystery box of like, that race is just insanely good at the Force. But like, let's get more like, hey, Yoda decided to take 100 years to explore the galaxy and just see him interacting with societies across the galaxy. That would be fun. But I don't know. I kind of like the mystery behind it,
Yeah, maybe at least explain that it is a mystery. State that, people are asking, where did he come from? Where are his people from? And we're like, well, we know there's only, 3 or 4 in each galaxy, but we don't know where they actually come from. But they're one of the few species that is sent to different galaxies or something like that. They, we have reason to believe that he's not from this galaxy originally, or something weird like that makes it to where like, okay, cool. He's a faraway mystery. There's very few of them. They're super powerful in the Force, but that's all we know. We don't really have a planet to pin him to or anything like that.
As a kid, they always like randomly show up in some random town and people right away know like, oh, the Jedi are going to want to know about this. Yeah. Something like that. That'd be cool. That'd be dope. Yeah, guys. So a couple of the pros I got for you guys. Visual spectacle, of course. Yeah, lightsaber duels are dope. We had this ship chase that was in the ring of a planet that to me was really, high budget Star Trek, basically. That was really cool. Again, we had those cameos that were pretty neat. And I do appreciate the fact that they tried something new in Star Wars, because we do get a lot of the same repetitive stuff, and it does get exhausting. So they tried something new. Did it work? In my opinion, no. But I do appreciate they tried something different. Yeah,
and that doesn't mean stop trying. Maybe you didn't make a ton of money on this. You have plenty of other shows that are supporting the company. It's, not failing. So keep trying one-offs like this and see how they work. And if they do, you make multiple seasons. If they don't, then that could be a one-off season and be fine.
That's kind of the hard part. Like when something flops this hard, they usually will overcorrect, and it's like, oh, we're just going to get like the Han Solo adventures, and we don't need that. We have a lot of Han Solo stuff already.
Yeah.
And of course, my downside of the messy plot is kind of everywhere. There's real weak character development. I talked about this on the TikToks that I put out for my review for this, which is something new I'm trying. Explaining that one of the crucial elements for Star Wars that you care about the characters, Princess Leia, even, like Finn and Rey and Poe Dameron, you care about what happens to them. And I couldn't care less what happens to any of these characters.
Yeah, they didn't build them up very well.
No. So when something bad happens, when, whatever happens, who cares? It's okay. Yeah. I don't even think this is going to get a season 2, let alone do I think they're going to be canon here pretty soon. So the dialogue was poorly written and poorly delivered, especially with the May and Osha actress. She plays Rue from Hunger Games. And man, she did not do a great job in this series, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then we had some inconsistent tones. It was everywhere. One episode feels dark. The whole thing was supposed to be dark. One episode feels dark. One episode feels almost silly. You didn't know what you're tuning into, and they leaned it so far into the mystery thing that they felt incomplete. Every episode did. So let us know what you guys thought. Let's head back to our Discord and see what some of the input is from our friends. We have Kevin, who's been on the show plenty of times. He says, I really enjoyed it overall. There were some things that I didn't care for and other things that I wish they'd done better. They dove into deeper, I'm sorry. But it was good. For me, it was better than Ahsoka, but not as good as Obi-Wan. I tell you, talk about bizarre universe. I thought Ahsoka was immaculate, and I thought Obi-Wan was good, not great. I think they're both better than this. But the fact that he has those flipped, I'm like, what?
Yeah, seriously. Ahsoka was really good. Obi-Wan, it was good, but I wouldn't put it at the top of my list.
The final fight was neat.
Yeah.
We have Scott and Ross in our Discord, guys, if you guys want to chat with these guys. Finished the season finale for The Acolyte, despite some really cool scenes and the integration of very interesting Star Wars lore that we haven't seen on screen before. It's hard to overlook the periods of weak storytelling, a 6 out of 10. I like the idea of everybody giving their opinions in Discord, so we might make a channel for that. That would be really smart.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Thank you very much, Scott and Kevin, for adding your opinions to the show.
So if Disney continues to work on Star Wars stuff and they start another series, is there something specific you would like to see? I'll go first. I think a Clone Wars live action series would do really well. And you use the Stormtrooper uniforms, so a lot of the actors can be, low budget actors and stuff, but you have a lot of the stories. It can continue. It doesn't have to retell the same stories, but I think that would do really good.
Interesting. Yeah. It's hard because I think Clone Wars nailed it so hard. Yeah. So you're like,
it nailed it, but a lot of people won't give it a chance being that it's animated. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
You're right. And that's so stupid. I'm so tired of
Yeah.
Invincible, X-Men 97, all these amazing shows we had this year, and they're just like, that's for kids. No, you're stupid.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah. Great point, though, Jonathan. Yeah, if we are to get, and you know what we could do is kind of mainstream the story, because there's some fillers in Clone Wars for sure.
Yeah.
We could get rid of a lot of those extra stories and just get to the meat and potatoes. I like that idea. You might have to recast. You would have to recast Anakin and Obi-Wan. Yeah. But what the hell? Let's do it. Yeah. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah.
For myself, I've said it a few times now. I would love a series based on the pirates. We're about to get a new video game, Star Wars Outlaws, which we will be reviewing in full here on Geek Freaks. It's going to be the first game made by Ubisoft, and the idea is that it's all the underworld of Star Wars. You're interacting with the Hutts and everything like that, and of course the pirates. But exploring that side of the universe where they don't have the protection of the Jedi, and maybe the Empire's not messing with them just because they're not worth being messed with. Well, what do you do out there? You have to deal with warlords and local jerks and stuff like that. So I almost think the Boba Fett series, it only had one season, but it kind of tapped that a little bit, showing how it was like, Boba Fett wants to be in charge of Tatooine, or this town in Tatooine. Well, you have to be the strongest guy, then you better get there. And he did. I think that'd be really cool to explore. And I think it's something that Star Wars just doesn't touch. You don't need the Force in Star Wars. Matter of fact, the Acolyte's all Force, and we were complaining about it. But Mandalorian season 1, there's like none, and it's one of the best things they've put out. So you don't always need the Force.
It's like Batman fighting Superman. It's so much cooler when you can see somebody. You can see somebody without this extreme power, a much more grounded, human person. And then they use skills and techniques that they develop and tools they create and stuff like that to be able to keep up and fight on the same level as these super powered people.
Yeah.
So that'd be cool.
So let's wrap up our review for The Acolyte, Jonathan. Talking about our scores, I gave it a 5 out of 10. Again, some really visually great episodes. A couple characters that I do like, Kamir and Soul specifically. but it struggled in its plot, it struggled in its character development and acting. What's your score?
Yeah, I'd probably go even less. I'm going to go 4 out of 10. Again, yeah, it looks good. They can make some merchandise that's going to sell. There's some, aspects they could put in Disneyland in that area and stuff. But the story itself, the writing seemed really weak to me. It was just it was just hard to pay attention to a lot of times.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Let's move over to The Boys. Let's talk about The Boys season 4. God, I'm glad we're going out on a high note.
Yeah.
I freaking loved it, man.
Now, speaking of writing and energy level, this show, every episode is like, oh my God, can they not get crazier in the next episode? Yeah. And it's always just so extreme. It's explosions and, pouring gasoline on the fire kind of thing with superheroes and humans, but it's just a crazy, fun, don't watch it with your kids kind of show.
No.
But it's definitely a fun show to watch.
I want to add to that, like, craziness. Like, it does feel like it's just always going to one up itself, but still tell good stories. Like, one of the big pinnacle things for this season is its mirror on politics that we're facing today. Yeah. And it can be heavy-handed in the funniest way. And I think no one is spared. On both sides of that aisle, you're finding jokes about yourself. You're finding jokes about the other guys. And the fact that it's the craziness that ensues, that creates is the joke. The fact that we have Firecracker on the news talking nonsense and we're laughing at that, but also like the Starlighters and, we know who the Starlight is supposed to be. I think it has substance while also just kind of just nuts every time. There's been so many times like, what? Like, let's do that.
Yeah, very much feels like a really good comic book series made into a TV show. The writing feels like comic book writing. One thing though, for the negative side of it is I didn't care for some of the romance stories and some of the B and C plot stories they had in this season.
Fair.
I feel like they could have cut some of that out, thin it out. I mean, or replace it with a little bit more interesting storylines. But the whole, what's his name, Frenchie and Colin thing.
Yeah, okay.
That was just kind of a waste of time. I feel like it didn't pay off too much. It developed more of this trauma, I guess, that he's struggling through and stuff. But he already had a pretty dynamic character, so I don't think they had to add much to him.
I wanted to see Colin in the finale. Like, you're just going to leave the character now? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So it would have been nice to have some sort of an apology from Frenchie. I don't know how to explain it, but something more. That being said, about damn time Kimiko and Frenchie finally revealed their feelings for each other. That's something we've been wanting for a long time, and now they finally have. It's great. And then, again, spoiler warning for everything. The final moments when Frenchie's being taken away and we hear Kimiko yell, and it's like, she's talking, she's getting past the trauma that's been ensued or been, I keep saying ensued, but enforced on her. So that is really freaking cool.
Yeah.
Stellar performances all abroad. So I've said it so many times, but I think Anthony Starr's Homelander, talk about Emmy worthy. The way that man can stand in a room and scare the hell out of you by just standing there and looking around.
Yeah.
So good.
You're in every scene he's in, it's like you have to read his face, and he is so good at conveying this twisted dynamic that his character is playing of, is he kind of crazy right now? Is he, because he gets to these times where he's very practical and logical, or he gets kind of fed up with all this business. It's like, we just need to, it's time for us to go have a picnic. I'm going to round up. We're going to go pretend like we're family and have a picnic. And then he comes back and he's just like, somebody threw something at my kid. I'm going to burn down the whole world. Like, everyone's going to die. It's just going to be, quick and painful, very painful. He's just so all over the spectrum, and the actor does so good at playing that, and I love to see that.
Yeah, one of the best things about Homelander is the fact that he is so powerful and is in charge of every room he's in just because of how powerful he is. But also the moments where he feels weak and he looks weak, almost instead of being like, oh, hey, finally Homelander's weak, you're more scared because he's like unstable. Yeah. And so you almost don't want Homelander to feel weak, because then his overreaction will destroy the world.
Yeah, that's the snake that's scared in the corner. It's going to lunge. If you make him feel like he's not strong, then he's going to prove he's strong by this whole town needs to burn now because of that.
Yeah. And then just a shout out to again, that's Anthony Starr that plays him. When you see interviews for him, he's so jovial and happy. It doesn't feel right. You're like, you're not Homelander. I don't trust this.
Right. Though his acting in this is so great. I could totally see this, launching his career and specifically villain roles. I'd love to see him in like a Die Hard as the bad guy or something like that. Like he could play. He could play that kind of dark, sinister villain and a lot of stuff. It'd be cool.
Man, a new Die Hard with him. That's a great call, John. Damn.
Right.
Carl Urban, who is like geekdom royalty. I was just talking about this on Threads. He's probably the best Star Trek recast ever, in my opinion. When he plays Bones, McCoy, he nails it as McCoy, and he does a great job here too of being again like this unstoppable force who's facing death and is struggling with what he should do next, what's valuable. And he's kind of like this father or older brother figure to Hughie, and who's he letting down? He's a complicated character, and I think Carl Urban portrays him perfectly.
Yeah, because we see he's in an emotional roller coaster this whole time, this mental torment where he's struggling to decide which way he needs to be going in every step that he takes. Whether should I just do what's good for the people? Should I do what helps me get vengeance, or do I take care of this kid who what my wife would have wanted most of all? And he's just constantly twisted. And we see, just like Anthony Starr, we see him being or like we see Homelander, I guess. We see him having to switch directions in his acting all the time, and it just makes for such a great character.
And then we end with Billy Butcher having this Venom-like ability where he's able to extrude these tentacles, and we see he rips Newman in half. What do you think the direction is going to go with that character? And by the way, just a reminder, first off, everybody I've talked to that's read the comic book says the show is far better than the comic book. So nice. If you don't feel rushed to read the comics, but also they said that the final season is not going to be like the comic books at all anyways. So we don't have to worry about that. Based off of that, what do you think Billy Butcher's going to be doing next?
Well, so this Venom-like power and everything means that he's not on his deathbed anymore, right?
Well, the Venom's in charge, and it's what was killing him. So he's not fighting it anymore, so he's like healthier. And he has the virus that can kill soups now. Yeah. So he's out there.
Yeah, so I think he's going to end up being the new big bad if I don't know, if he would team up with Homelander to somehow
No, he wants to kill Homelander more than anything else.
Yeah, but because I don't think they're going to kill Homelander. Well, hopefully maybe they will, and then Butcher will be the new big bad. But it's kind of late in the story to make that big of a pivot. I don't know. I think maybe it'll just put him on par where it can be, Batman versus Superman kind of thing, or Venom versus Superman, where they do have an all-out battle. But he has no limits anymore, right? He's just kind of all out there and ready to do whatever it takes to kill him.
Well, I mean, it kind of brings us back to that balance idea in the Force, right? Where I think Homelander being pure evil all the way out there, and then Butcher thinking he's doing good, but he's going pure the wrong direction or other direction. And then we have Hughie and the Boys, which is a great band title. Hughie and the Boys, kind of wanting to also do what Billy Butcher does, but it's all about how you do it and having that restraint and stuff like that. Again, it's funny how much it reflects back on the Force. I think it's like it's not the end result if you're going to get everybody killed. Butcher's down to kill every soup in the world, including himself, because now he's a soup. If it means that Homelander dies, but it's like you're going to kill Kimiko, and I love Kimiko. Starlight, you're going to kill Starlight too. You're going to kill so many people that you actually love. Yeah. The political aspect of the show, I think, is this season in particular was like really close to home. I think it's going to morph in the next season to be something that's a little more outlandish, as Homelander just straight up takes charge of the government, which will be it'll be fun. As much as I love the political tones of this one, I think it might have alienated some people that, whatever. But
And honestly, though, I think I could imagine the writing. This was written years ago, and takes a long time to film it and produce and stuff like that. I think they wrote it to be kind of outlandish and extreme, and our world wouldn't follow this. And then our world is looking more and more like a comic book. So, our reality is starting to match the show more than vice versa. So, I don't think they necessarily intended to push so hard a certain narrative or whatever, but it obviously is being portrayed that way. So yeah, they'll probably try to soften up a little bit and not take such a big swing against people.
The finale actually had to put a warning card saying like, hey, we didn't plan on, this assassination attempt thing to be so real. And so we wrote this a few years ago. And, it's just the world's getting crazier.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And then I really liked, we have a lot of character development this season. One of them is Hughie himself, who, has never had a good day in his life, I feel like. His dad dies and stuff like that. Yeah. But at the end is saying, hey, we need to be better. It doesn't matter if we go all out and do horrible things to win the day, because then we're just Homelander again. Yeah. We need to show that there's another alternative to this, which is a message I think is important, and the way that they're delivering that message feels real and universal. Hughie, and again, a lot of the other characters like Starlight and stuff like that, I think show that there's a better way about going over these things instead of just like killing each other.
Yeah. Yeah, because they mentioned it at some point where it's like, why is it that everything we do ends up being we have to kill somebody to try to solve our problems? And it's like there's other things, it's not always how many people do we have to kill to make things right. Killing people doesn't make it right. We need to find a way to solve it without murder. So I think that's good. I think in the next season, I don't know if, they're all getting rounded up, actually. Never mind. I was thinking they're very much growing his character to where he could be the one leading the, group, the boys at some point. But then, we might need to bring in a couple more characters with Butcher, going full on crazy and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do a little time jump and then now he's leading, they break out, whatever, and he's leading the boys, and it's a little bit bigger crew or different crew or something like that. Would be kind of cool.
We have the two bad guys essentially from Gen V in this now. Gen V's very good, guys. Make sure you watch Gen V. The good guys are still in the underground facility, so they could be broken out and help Huey's side or Butcher's side, whatever. I think Gen V will kind of fill the roster for the next season of The Boys.
Yeah. And we could imagine that they'll all be locked up, but the humans will be in regular prisons, which maybe they can get broken out of, but the soups will probably be in that underground bunker, or that special prison for them. So we might start the next season where it's got to be a breakout attempt to get their people free, and then hey, you do that, then you got some more soups that you can bring along with you and say, hey, we're gonna go fight the people that locked you up down here. Let's work together. Yeah, that'd be kind of nice way to fill the bench. Yeah,
so many great moments from this season. What were some of your? I hate to we just talked pretty negative about the Acolyte. I hate to talk so positive about the next show. It's just how the feelings were, right? Spoiler alert, when we get to House of the Dragon, as long as they keep holding it up, I'm going to be talking about even more highlights from that one, because I absolutely love House of the Dragon. So just heads up on that. Yeah. What were some of your favorite moments from this season looking back at it?
I like how we're seeing a lot of it's character development, right? This is a very character-driven show. There's some weird kind of extreme stuff, gross stuff, Homelander ripping the guy in half, the guy just shitting webs, nonstop and stuff like that. It's just weird things. But I think one of my favorite story arcs we're seeing is this kind of A-Train comeback where he's trying to, make himself a good person again. And he tells that little story of this one time he saved that guy and nobody was there except for this little kid. And this wasn't like a TV save. That kid actually looked up to him. He's like, that was more valuable than any of these other, bullshit saves I've ever done. And it's like, that's cool. It seems genuine for his character. And we want to, see that kind of, that's good character development in the story. Just great writing. I like to see that kind of stuff. They're doing good.
That's a great one. Yeah, the A-Train character, who knew when you watched the first episode that you'd be rooting for him?
He was so pompous, and we hated him early on, and that's such a good job that they did in the writing to make us not like him and then give us a reason to change our mind over time. He spends a lot of time in this gray area where he's going to kind of help the other guys because he knows his head's on the chopping block or whatever, and then eventually he's full on both sides are messed up, but I want to do what's good for individual people because that's what actually makes me feel good inside. And it's damn, that's such a cool, character development.
It is. And then another character that kind of, I guess I feel sympathy for, but also they're a horrible person, but you feel bad for them is Ashley, the CEO, who in the last episode, we see takes some V to just become a superhero so that she doesn't get killed by Homelander and the Seven.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how much I kind of thought, how do I say this? Kind of an abusive relationship vibe out of her, right? She feels like there is no other option for her but to be there with these lunatics, and decides to stay this entire time. There is a little bit of a hero thing where she's there to protect those who can't be protected, but also like she's super selfish as well.
Yeah.
She's shitty to her assistants
and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated with her, but I like that character.
It's like she knows she doesn't have any control over these monsters, and every once in a while she realizes how powerful they are, and it's like, if there's an option, a choice I can make that kind of weakens them just a little bit, I should go ahead and do that, as long as they can't see it, as long as it doesn't come back on me, because it just takes a thought from any one of them, snap of their fingers, and I'm, my head will explode, or I'll die a gruesome death. So it's hard. It's holding rattlesnakes, and you can't look either way. You can't make any actions because she'll easily die.
Yeah, I think the A-Tray thing is my favorite part. I think my other favorite part of the season has been Kessler, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. And that reveal that he's actually just in Homelander's, or Billy Butcher's mind the entire time.
Yes, that was a really cool turn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's just such a good actor. Just having him standing in the room talking, you're like, oh man, I just want to hear you talk more. Just tell another story.
I know, it's so funny that like once that reveal happened, you could tell they told Jeffrey like, all right, go ahead and go full Negan now, and he goes full Walking Dead Negan after that. He's like doing the kind of lean-ins and the over dramatic evil speeches and stuff like that. You're like, that dude's gonna be employed for the rest of his life.
Yeah. And when they make that turn and you realize it, then you're looking back like the Sixth Sense, where you're like, did he not touch anything? Was he never picking up or handshakes or God, that's true. The whole time he could have just been in his head. And it's just like, that was well done for sure.
He better be in the last season because I want him right there in Butcher's mind the entire time. And Butcher's wife, of course, is like the angel on his shoulder. Yeah. But right now the devil's in charge. So let's see what happens. Oh, man. My score for this season's been an 8 out of 10. Of course, there's so many highlights. There are a couple of downsides. Like I would say the pacing's been a little bit off, as in like some episodes felt like they went a little too slow. The farm episode felt like it was a little too wacky.
A little campy,
A little campy, right? Yeah. Some of the characters were underutilized that I think they could, like Black Noir, I think they could have explored that character a lot more. And then lastly, some of the elements were pretty predictable. Like we assumed Newman's not going to stay alive if she's going to start switching to the good side. Like a couple things were like that were a little predictable, of course.
Yeah.
But 8 out of 10, very solid, super enjoyable, and cannot wait for that final season. Jonathan, what is your score?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go right there with you. 8 out of 10. Like we talked about, kind of like some of the love stories and stuff were a little unnecessary. And of course, some of this show is super gruesome and every once in a while a little bit silly. The whole arc with the octopus and stuff, it was a good story arc that he's in love and then he kills, his lover and all this stuff. But it's just it's on the edge of being too silly that it's an octopus that he's got this whole relationship with and stuff. So but it was still such a good show. It's just, it's a comic book series, very much so, written into live action, and so there's going to be that kind of comic book extreme comedy kind of stuff that is funny but a little bit weird sometimes. All
right, guys, let us know what you guys thought about this. Again, head over to our Discord and all of our social medias. Let us know what you guys thought about The Boys.
All right, recommendation for the week. I'm going to say definitely House of the Dragons. If you guys haven't been keeping up with it, such a phenomenal series. It's amazing. And another show I started watching on Netflix, I believe. It was originally aired on Showtime. It's called Your Honor with... Bryan Cranston. It's good. I think there's only 2 seasons of it. I'm on season 2 right now, and it's kind of it's got a lot of that Breaking Bad vibes or Better Call Saul kind of story. So, definitely worth checking out. It's nothing. It's been out for a while, so it's nothing new and pressing to watch. But definitely catch up on House of the Dragons. That's been such a good show.
It really has been. And we're at the point now where they're starting a new kind of story arc in there about the dragon seeds. So this is the episode to make sure you're caught up on, guys. Yeah. We normally record on Sundays. So like this morning when I was getting ready for the recording, I was like, oh, that's right. Tonight we have House of the Dragon. No, we're recording on a Saturday. Damn it.
Yeah.
My recommendation for the week is going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles #1 for coming out in comics, of course. This is going to be written by Jason Aaron, the legend. And what we're seeing in this episode this issue, it's a reboot to the franchise. All the turtles were scattered to the four winds. They're reuniting in New York City. They're going to be starting the family up again. They're really pushing that this is a place to start reading Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles if you haven't done it before. And if you're unfamiliar with TMNT comic book form, that's the darker, grittier. That's like where they came from. It was an adult-only comic book when it first came out. And so, guys, TMNT #1. Again, Jason Aaron's writing that. So check that out in your local comic book shop. Make sure you shop local. Before we leave, network news. Challenge Accepted has finished up the reviews for The Boys and for The Acolyte. Playlists available on Spotify if you guys want to just relive the entire season. Continuing to cover House of the Dragon. If you guys would like to submit a movie for Challenge Accepted to review, please head over to our Discord or any of their social media channels and post a movie you guys want to do. If you add a small review for the movie that you're suggesting, we'll include it in that episode as well. Who's Got Next Game podcast coming out with a new episode this week. They're going to be wrapping up their GameCube section, and it's the part 2 of their GameCube section, so check that out. And an announcement from Outlast Podcast. Season 11 of Outlast Podcast starts September 13th. That's the preview show. And then every Wednesday after that, or every Thursday after that, is a new episode of Outlast Podcast. So subscribe now so you don't miss any of that. We also have a new show coming down the pipeline. We're going to be having that host on. I don't want to talk about it yet because I'm excited to share it. But we're going to be having that host on August 4th, the week of August 4th. So you guys can learn all about a new show coming down. And I am incredibly proud of the work that this host is doing. It is going to be so incredible. I'm like so excited. I finished the intro for the YouTube video and it's like, this is the best one I've ever done. This is so cool.
Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye. Nice.